Standard 7 Science, Chapter 4, Nutrition in Living Organisms. Nutrition is simply a process wherein an organism takes in food and utilizes it to produce energy. Nutrition is basically of two types, autotrophic and heterotrophic. Autotrophic, auto means self and trophic means to prepare. So autotrophic means to prepare on your own and heterotrophic is the opposite, that cannot be prepared on their own. A simple way to remember autotrophic and heterotrophic is by remembering that when you feel hungry and you want nutrition, you say to eat. So A stands for autotrophic and H stands for heterotrophic. Now the nutrients that we consume and require are divided into two parts. Macronutrients that are bigger nutrients and micronutrients that are smaller nutrients. The macronutrients that we require are carbohydrates, fats and proteins, and the micronutrients are vitamins and minerals. Now, plants produce food on their own. So they prepare it on their own. So we can say that plants are autotrophic. Primary consumers, that are the first consumers, feed on the plants and gain nutrients from the plants. They are called as primary consumers. Consumer means they consume something. The second is secondary consumer. The secondary consumers consume primary consumers. Then they are followed by tertiary consumers and finally they are hunted by apex predators. Apex means the top predator, the top of the food chain. After that, decomposers come into light. The decomposers consume the decayed matter and once the decomposers also live throughout their life cycle, they decay in the soil and they are consumed by plants. And the cycle goes on, hence it is called as a food chain. This tree diagram is the compressed form of all the nutrition types that you will learn throughout the chapter. The nutrition that we learn will take place in plants and in animals. To begin with, the shortcut to remember the nutrition in plants is a straight plant is simple. A stands for autotrophic, H stands for heterotrophic. Now, heterotrophic has four parts. The first one is symbiotic, the second one is parasitic, the third one is insectivorous, and the fourth and the final one is saprophytic. Now that plants is done, let's move on to animals. The shortcut to remember the nutrition in animals is horse says proudly, the H stands for holozoic, S stands for saprozoic, P stands for parasitic. Parasitic has two parts, ectoparasitic and endoparasitic. Now how to remember which stands for which in endo and ecto. Endo, remember En in the endo. En is there in entry. So it is something wherein you go inside. Entry indicates inside. So endoparasitic is something that happens inside and ectoparasitic is the opposite, something that happens outside. Let's learn about the transport system in plants, how food and nutrients are transported in plants. There are two main parts that you will remember. The first one is xylem, the second one is phloem. Xylem, Xylem, and phloem, Phloem. Now phloem starts with P and you know P is patte, that is leaf in Hindi. So phloem is something related to the leaf of the plant. The function of the phloem is to transport food that is prepared from the leaves to other parts of the plant. So phloem you can remember patte se plant tak. So from the leaves to the plant parts. Xylem does the opposite of phloem. So xylem, phloem transports the water and food to different parts of the plant and xylem transports the water and minerals from the roots to the aerial parts of the plant.
Issue: plants need nitrogen for making proteins but they can't absorb it directly from air. Mission target: acquire nitrogen.
So for fulfilling this mission, nature has a plan A and a plan B. Let's learn what these plans are. Plan A involves atmospheric fixation of nitrogen. It requires two things: lightning during the rainy season. So it requires rainfall and lightning. Now let's see what happens in this, the mission details. So for plan A to work, lightning that occurs during the rainy season causes atmospheric nitrogen and oxygen to react with each other to form nitric oxide, NO, which is again oxidized. Oxidized means oxygen is added to form nitrogen dioxide, NO2. The nitrogen dioxide then dissolves in rainwater and is converted into nitric acid, HNO3, which gets added to the soil along with the rainwater. Now this acid, that is nitric acid, HNO3, reacts with different minerals in the soil and converts into salt. Plants use this nitrogen salts for their growth. Now nature has a plan B as well. Plan B involves biological fixation of nitrogen. In this, there are two different types of microorganisms known as rhizobium and azotobacter that will play an important role. Both of them have a property that is characteristic to them, that they can convert atmospheric nitrogen into nitrates, which can then be absorbed by the plants. So rhizobium is obtained near the root nodules of leguminous plants. R for rhizobium and R for root nodules. And azotobacter is present in the soil. This is how plants can acquire nitrogen. Now, nitrogen is essential because plants require proteins for growth and for wear and tear. Proteins are made by carbon, hydrogen, oxygen and nitrogen. And after nature's plan A and plan B are executed, the mission will be successful and plants will acquire nitrogen to make proteins. Autotrophic nutrition in plants. How do plants make their own food? Plants make their food by absorbing the carbon dioxide and water from the atmosphere, the carbon dioxide from the air and the water from the soil, as well as the minerals from the soil. Then, in the presence of sunlight, the chlorophyll pigment that is present in the plant converts this carbon dioxide and water into glucose and oxygen. So we can conclude that through the process of photosynthesis, photo means light and synthesis means combine to make something, the plants make their own food, hence most of the plants are called as autotrophic plants. Heterotrophic nutrition in plants are of four types. The first one is symbiotic nutrition. Now when two or more than two different types of plants live together and fulfill each other's needs of nutrition, protection, support, etc., this type of nutrition that they obtain is called as symbiotic nutrition. It's a very harmonious, give and take, straightforward thing. For example, some fungi that grow on the root of some plants give them water and mineral, while the plants in turn give them food. Now when fungi and algae also live together, the fungi again provides water and mineral to the algae. It also provides shelter to the algae. And the algae in turn provides food to the fungi. A simple way to remember this is fungi will give water and mineral and it will receive food. The second type of heterotrophic nutrition in plants is parasitic nutrition. Parasitic means something that grows on the body of something else to feed off of it. Parasitic nutrition. The plants that grow on the body of other plants to obtain food are called as parasitic plants. The examples are Cuscuta, also known as dodder or amarbale, and Loranthus. Now, due to the absence of chlorophyll, the Cuscuta is completely dependent on a host plant. As it obtains food from the host plant, it is said to be parasitic plant. The Cuscuta has hostorial roots for absorbing nutrients from the host plant. Hostorial roots are basically roots that are used for sucking and absorbing nutrients. These roots penetrate up to the conducting vessels of the host plant to absorb water and food. The cuscuta is leafless and cannot perform photosynthesis. Its plant body consists of yellow, wire-like stems. The third type of heterotrophic nutrition observed in plants is insectivorous nutrition. Some plants feed upon insects to obtain nutrients. These plants are called as insectivorous plants, and this type of nutrition that plants use to obtain nutrients by feeding upon insects is called as insectivorous nutrients. Now, the example is Drosera, Venus flytrap and sundew. We look at Drosera a bit in detail. The plant body of the Drosera burmani has a flower-like appearance. Burmani part was added to the name of Drosera because it was founded Jordan Burman. The plant body of the Drosera burmani has a flower-like appearance and it grows close to the ground. Its leaves are attractively pink or red in color with hairs at the margin. The droplets of a sticky substance found at the tips of the hair attracts the insects. Note this point about insectivorous plants. Insectivorous plants grow in soil or water that is deficient in nitrogen compounds. Now, nitrogen is essential to obtain the macronutrient of protein. So, to compensate this deficiency of nitrogen, the insectivorous plants consume insects and gain nitrogen that is present in the insect body. Once again, a few examples of insectivorous plants are Venus flytrap, Drosera and sundew that are mentioned in this video. The fourth and final type of heterotrophic nutrition that's observed in plants is saprophytic nutrition. It's basically the process in which plants obtain food from dead and decaying bodies of other organisms. Now these plants are called as saprophytic plants. A simpler way to remember saprophytic is that it's a sad thing. So death usually makes people sad. So you can remember sad saprophytic plants obtain food from dead and decaying bodies. Okay, let's learn it with an example. Various types of fungi like mushrooms and yeast are saprophytes. Fungi secrete digestive enzymes on the dead remains to digest or break down the carbon compounds that they contain. The resulting solution of this is observed to be absorbed by the fungi and they obtain nutrients from this solution. Some mushrooms are poisonous, some mushrooms are not poisonous and can be consumed and are very nutritious. There are also some mushrooms that are luminous, that is, they have the property of shining or emitting light. Yeast is also useful as yeast is added to the dough to make the dough rise and to prepare bread. Let's move on and learn about the nutrition in animals. 5 steps are required for animals to gain and utilize the nutrition. The first step is ingestion. Ingestion means taking in or going inside. As the name suggests, in this step the food is taken into the body. The second step is digestion. Here, conversion of food into simple soluble forms is done usually by the digestive system. Next is absorption. Now, there is transfer of soluble food. The soluble food was converted in the step of digestion. This soluble food is now transferred to the blood. The fourth one is assimilation. In assimilation, now that the soluble food has been absorbed by the blood, the absorbed food starts to be utilized by the cells and tissues for energy production, growth and repair. Now after it has been used, the final one is exiting, that is egestion. E for egestion and E for exit. So here the waste products and undigested food is removed from the body. Based on the type of food that they eat, animals can be classified into the following 5 categories. The first one is herbivores. Herbs remind you of plants, so herbivores are plant-eating animals. The examples mentioned here are giraffe and deer. The second one is carnivores. Carnivores are flesh-eating animals. The pictures mentioned here are shark, fox and crocodile. The third one are omnivores. Omnivores eat both plant as well as flesh. So they are both plant and flesh consuming animals. The examples mentioned here are hen, honey badger and porcupine. Bears are a very common example that come to mind when you think about omnivores. The fourth category is scavengers. Now scavengers have to scavenge for their food, which means that they do not eat what is readily available. So their diet must be something different. Scavengers eat dead and decomposing bodies of plants, animals and other food items. The examples here are crow, turkey vulture and hyena. The fifth and the final category is decomposers. Now most decomposers are microscopic organisms including protozoa and bacteria. Other decomposers are big enough to see without a microscope. They include fungi and invertebrate organisms like earthworms, termites, millipedes, etc. The types of nutrition that is observed in animals can be classified into 3 main types: holozoic, saprozoic and parasitic. The shortcut to remember the types of nutrition is horse speaks proudly. The H stands for holozoic, S stands for saprozoic and P stands for parasitic nutrition. Now parasitic nutrition has 2 subtypes, ectoparasitic and endoparasitic. Let's move on and learn these in detail. The first type of nutrition observed in animals is holozoic nutrition. Focus on the sound of holozoic. The first part is whole, which means that the organism requires a whole to take in the food. Holozoic nutrition is internalization and internal processing of gaseous, liquid or solid food particles. So just keep in mind that these organisms require a whole to put in the food. Protozoa such as amoeba and most of the free living animals such as humans exhibit this type of nutrition. Simply put, holozoic nutrition involves the ingestion of liquid or solid organic material followed by digestion, absorption and assimilation of it to utilize it for various purposes. It includes taking in complex substances and converting them into simpler forms. To give examples, just think about animals or organisms that have holes to take in food. Amoebas are unicellular organisms whereas humans are multicellular organisms. Let's learn about holozoic nutrition in unicellular organisms. We already know that protozoa such as amoeba, euglena, paramecium, etc. show holozoic nutrition. You can see the amoeba consuming the paramecium in the video. Pause the video to read in detail how amoeba consumes food through holozoic nutrition. Holozoic nutrition observed in multicellular animals is a bit diverse. For example, insects like grasshopper and cockroach have jaw-like mouthparts to consume food. Butterflies have a long tube-like proboscis. Mosquitoes and bedbugs have needle-like mouthparts to pierce and a tube-like mouthpart to suck blood or other fluids to obtain nutrients. Humans and animals mostly consume food through their mouth, that is orally. Saprozoic nutrition. Sap, as seen in plants, remember sap is sad. So sad is during usually or commonly seen during death. So it's something related to death. So sap, remember sad because of something dead. Okay. Some insects or unicellular animals cannot digest solid food material. So they take their food outside the body by somehow converting the solid food into liquid. Let's see how it happens. They secrete digestive enzymes on their food and obtain the nutrients by absorbing the liquid organic material from the dead bodies of other animals or from the environment. This type of nutrition, obtained by absorbing liquid organic material from dead bodies of other animals or from the environment, is called as saprozoic nutrition. For example, houseflies, ants, spiders, etc. Parasitic nutrition involves obtaining nutrition from a host. When animals depend upon other animals for food, they can obtain the food only from animals on whom they are dependent. Now, a difference between parasitic and symbiotic is that parasitic only receive from the host. They don't give anything. So there is no straightforward or simple give and take. This is the common difference between symbiotic and parasitic nutrition. Now, there are two types of parasitic nutrition: ectoparasitic and endoparasitic. Let's learn this a bit more in detail. Some animals live on the body surface of other animals and obtain their food by sucking their blood. This is called ectoparasitic nutrition, and such animals are called as ectoparasites. For example, tick and lice. Ecto are outside on the surface of the body, which is the outer part of the body. Now animals like tapeworm and roundworms live inside the body. They enter the body of other animals and obtain their food. This type of nutrition is called as endoparasitic nutrition. Endo, entry. And these types of animals are known as endoparasites. As mentioned before, the examples are tapeworm and roundworm, also plasmodium, etc. Revision for chapter 4. The types of nutrition observed in plants and animals is given in a concise manner in this tree diagram. The shortcut to remember the nutrition observed in plants is a straight plant is simple. A for autotrophic and H for heterotrophic. Now heterotrophic has four types that you will remember. S for symbiotic, P for parasitic, I for insectivorous, S for saprophytic. Symbiotic is a harmonious, straightforward give and take relation. Parasitic depends on a host. Insectivorous consumes insects, and saprophytic is sad. It consumes dead bodies. So nutrients are absorbed from dead bodies. Let's move on to the shortcut to remember nutrition that is observed in animals. Horse says proudly, wherein H stands for holozoic. Remember whole, which means here the organisms require a whole to consume the food for obtaining nutrients. S stands for saprozoic. Sapro again is sad, which is usually commonly found during death. So saprozoic consumes nutrients from dead bodies. The final one is parasitic. Parasitic requires a host. So parasitic animals can either be inside the body or outside the host body. There are two types of parasites, endoparasites and ectoparasites. Endo require entry into the host, so they are found inside the body. Ecto are found outside on the surface of the body. They obtain nutrients from the host. The difference between parasitic and symbiotic is a straightforward give and take, but parasitic only takes from the host. The nutrients that are required, that are mostly utilized through the process of nutrition are of two types: macronutrients and micronutrients. Macronutrients are bigger nutrients known as carbohydrates, fats and proteins, and micronutrients are smaller nutrients known as vitamins and minerals. We know that plants produce carbohydrates by the process of photosynthesis. Now carbohydrates are made of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. However, proteins are made from carbon, hydrogen, oxygen and nitrogen. We know that proteins are essential for the wear and tear and growth. So how do plants obtain nitrogen that is necessary for the synthesis of proteins? Air contains 78% gaseous nitrogen. However, plants cannot utilize this gaseous nitrogen. So this problem needs to be fixed. The nitrogen is fixed, that is, it is converted into compounds. The fixation of nitrogen can occur in two ways. The first method is by biological fixation of nitrogen and the second one is atmospheric fixation of nitrogen. Pause the video and answer the following questions. Pause the video and answer the following questions.